Okay, so I wanted to take a minute to go through a new purchase that I've made, which is an iPad M4 2024 model 13-inch. I bought it for mainly to do research and stuff because I read a lot of books, and it's difficult because I'm usually reading the book on a Kindle or, some other device, and I'm trying to take notes in Obsidian, which is where I store all of my information. I don't have a photographic memory that I can remember every single thing that I've read. So I usually keep notes in Obsidian with different, links and things to kind of remind me of what that book was about and that type of thing. So the one thing that I wanted, let me get this screen started here. So the one thing I wanted to do was to see exactly what I could do on this device. And it is really an awesome device. I'm not knocking the iPad in any way, but those that keep posting videos about running Final Cut Pro on the device and processing their videos and using this device as a computer, in my opinion, they're not being honest. And I would almost bet that every single one of them at this point have gone back to using their computer to process their videos. And I'm going to explain exactly why, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how I use the device. But what I have now is I have Final Cut Pro loaded on the computer, on the iPad, and I have processed a video. And this video, processing the video was really not that bad. It took me a little bit to figure out what was going on with the keyframes because they act a little bit odd sometimes when you're doing stuff. But overall, I got the video processed. I got everything done. The response time, the playback time, all of that stuff is really nice. The first problem that you have, though, is that I can't take this Final Cut Pro project, at least I don't believe I can, take this Final Cut Pro project on my iPad and move it over to my MacBook to do any further work on it. What ended up happening last night is that I finished this project and I was trying to export it, and I was unable to do that. And the thing came up and told me that I didn't have enough disk space to export it. I tried to export it to the hard drive, to photos, to Dropbox. Nothing I did would export. So I've done hours of work to prepare this video and to get all of my stuff laid out. And then the system literally would not let me export it. So I ended up having to go back over to my Linux machine with Caden Live and process the entire video there because it actually works over there. So that was the big problem, is that, trying to get the export just wouldn't work. So I put all this effort in and then I couldn't get the end product out. The other problem that you have, and this is the part where I believe is really not an honest depiction of this device, is this is not a computer. And in its current, it's been this way forever. The iPad can only do one thing at a time. Now you can open up multiple apps, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. So I can open up multiple apps. For example, I went in last night and so you have to be very careful about opening this, but you slide up very slowly and hold it for a second before you actually go somewhere else. So what I did is I opened up my apps and I pulled YouTube up over here on the right, and then I was able to sit here and watch videos and stuff while the iPad was exporting the video or attempting to export the video. And as long as that's all you want to do, that it works fine. But the problem is that in the process of doing that, one time I accidentally did what you just saw me do, which was I went to open an application and I flipped it too fast and it closed Final Cut. It opened the other app over the top of Final Cut. And anything like that happens, the iPad quits processing your video. So you could have been sitting there for an hour waiting for this thing to process, and one little mistake causes the whole thing to cancel. The other problem is that while I'm using the iPad, I can't actually do anything else because the iPad itself is sitting there running that video, and there's no way for me to actually use it for reading a book or doing research or anything else while that runs in the background. So you literally take your device and turn it into a brick while it's sitting here processing that particular video. So that part of it is extremely frustrating. In fact, that part of it is, to me, enough to just say that it's impossible to process videos on the iPad, and is the reason that I'm actually going to get a refund for Final Cut, because I'm not gonna pay for it because it's really unusable. So the iPad version of Final Cut to me is worthless. Like if you're doing little videos and stuff, it probably works just fine, but trying to do an actual video project on here would be completely and utterly impossible. And the fact that it wouldn't export makes it even worse, because you've put all that work into it and then you can't get it out. It's just it's crazy. So let's close Final Cut, and I'm not going to go through a whole lot of the Final Cut stuff because it's Final Cut. Like it for the most part, it works, like you would expect it to, other than the things that I just mentioned. So let's take a look at a typical project that I might be doing. So I'm in the process of reading a book. So I'm going to open up my Kindle, and then we are going to come in here to my applications, and I'm going to lay Obsidian over here to the right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the book that I'm reading, which is on writing. So right here. And so these are the notes that I'm taking in this particular book as I'm reading the book. If anybody has not used Obsidian or something like it, it is a godsend, because it allows you to collect notes and information on all types of, these are, all the books and stuff that I've read. I've got different categories in here for, photography, airplanes, politics, all that stuff. And it allows me to keep all of my notes in one spot so that I can quickly and easily get back to them to look something up that I had read. So the Obsidian and being able to do research and stuff on here at the same time is just absolutely awesome. It's probably the most favorite thing that I have to say about the iPad. The larger screen, having more real estate with the 13-inch, I actually enjoyed a little bit more than I thought. Although I will say that this iPad, and I got it with the Zag keyboard, and mainly because Apple are idiots. They want you to actually break your iPad. And so they give you no protection at all for the iPad when you put it in an Apple keyboard. I would buy the Apple keyboard probably, but I need a case for the iPad. And the other, thing that's nice is when you take it off of the keyboard, you actually just have the iPad here. And so it lets you, just use it as a drawing tablet, because that's another thing that I use it for quite a bit. So it is really pretty nice. Now, as a lot of people know, I use the iPad in the airplane for navigation and stuff. I've actually just purchased a smaller version of the iPad Mini, for doing that, because this one is way too big to take inside the airplane. But it is surprising how heavy this thing is when you actually have a keyboard and the iPad in here together. Now, the iPad alone is not really that bad. It's just when you combine them, you're literally carrying a laptop around with you, which would beg to ask, why am I carrying an iPad instead of a laptop? But the honest truth is if you do any kind of drawing, or you're marking up PDF files or books or those kind of things, the iPad is just 10 times better. Because I've got a what do they call it? I can't even remember. The cover on the iPad, the screen, or I think they call it paper right or something like that. And it really makes a huge difference on being able to sit and write on the iPad and get stuff done. So I've got, that screen protector on there. I've got the extra cover around the edges, so if I drop it or something, I don't have to worry about breaking it. And the keyboard on this Zag keyboard is actually extremely awesome. The only thing that is bad about this cover that I got is that I've got the new iPad, and I did not know it at the time, but this cover actually doesn't fit this exactly correct, because evidently the older ones were 12.9 inches and this one's 13, and so they don't really go together very good. So I've got to take it back and get the bigger cover. But other than that, it works awesome. So the iPad, for what it's meant to be, which is, a standalone reader, video watcher, that kind of thing, is an awesome device. It's incredible how much time I save using it. But at the same time, you have to recognize the fact that you're just not going to get a computer-like experience with it, because it's not going to sit and export videos while you're off reading a book. It's just not capable of doing that kind of thing. So don't buy Final Cut for the iPad. It is absolutely not worth it. But don't knock the iPad for any other reason. It's just, if you're trying to do something that is intensive, like you could process photos on it because you're processing one photo at a time. You're not sitting there waiting an hour for it to export something. So there are things that I can see this would be extremely good at, but processing videos, absolutely horrid experience.